For 5,000 years, sultans and kings have distinguished themselves by the clothing they wore. Today, no matter what you rule, music, sports, fashion, or just plain cool, we're sultans and kings.
Hi, I'm Jay Monte with TruFan Boxing. I'm here with Sean Sullivan of Boxing Digest. A big week in boxing coming up, but let's just recap the last week. We had Albert Sosnowski facing Vitali Klitschko. Again, a contender trying to beat Klitschko. It didn't work.
Well,
what happened?
If you want to call him a contender, I mean, maybe fringe level at best. You know, Vitali had a voluntary defense, and no one else was around because the heavyweight division is so weak, and he got lucky. He got the shot.
Okay, let's turn to the heavyweight division. What's going on in the heavyweight division? It's a week. We have Adamek. We have the other Klitschko brother. What's going on?
Well, okay. I think David Haye, he's going back and forth. Which Klitschko is he going to fight?
Right.
Both Klitschkos have called him out, and he sort of pulled out of both fights. Well, that was last year, and this year, you know, he's still he really isn't,
with the program. Okay.
Right.
I think more of it. My opinion is the heavyweight division is politics is dictating instead of the fighters, and that's why I think everything is in a logjam. I mean, that's just my feeling. I don't know.
I'm interested in this Cuban guy, Elenier Solis.
Okay.
I think he's Vitali's mandatory at the moment. Because there was Ray Austin, who was Vitali's mandatory, and then he filed for bankruptcy, and then somehow got dropped out of the ratings for the WBC.
Okay.
There was a whole big scandal with that. Anyway, now Lanier Solis is supposedly the number one contender for Vitali.
Okay.
And I think people aren't talking about him because he's only got about 15 fights.
Right.
But if you look back at the amateurs, he beat David Haye. He knocked him out in the amateurs, so I think he's got a shot.
Well, interesting.
Perhaps it's David Haye, not a Klitschko, but
let's turn to brighter things here. Yankee Stadium, Saturday night, not going to be a baseball game, going to be a boxing card, a big boxing card. The headliner is Yuri Foreman and Miguel Cotto. But before I get to that fight, there are a few good fights on the undercard. And out of those 3 fights, 4 are New Yorkers. They live and reside in New York. The first fight, 2 New Yorkers, Moore-Wolack, junior middleweight facing James Moore. This fight was supposed to happen a few years ago when both were undefeated. Both hit a little bit of snags in their career. Now they're facing each other. How do you see that fight playing out?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, it's overall, and forget about what fights are on the card. It's a historic event.
Right.
The first fight card at Yankee Stadium since 1976. So no matter who's on the show and what happens on the show, just the fact that at this Yankee Stadium, I think that's the biggest deal out of this whole show, really.
Right.
I mean, the main event, Miguel Cotto versus Yuri Foreman, it's an interesting style matchup, but I think the venue trumps the whole show, really.
Right. Actually, it's bigger than the fighters.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Well, the first fight, Moore-Wolack, junior middleweight faces James Moore, a slugger from New York. How do you see this fight, seeing out? This might be the fight of the night.
It might be the fight of the night, but I think it's going to be the shortest fight of the night, really.
Okay, while it lasts. Okay.
While it lasts. You got 2 come forward fighters. One is a little bit more closer to his, if you want to call it his prime, being Wolack. Right. And James Moore is really a part-time fighter these days, but he is a slugger, and he does provide for entertaining fights. So that's why this fight is happening, and it'll be fun while it lasts. I pick Wolack.
You pick Wolack by mid to late stoppage?
Yeah, think? 4 to 6 rounds. Okay,
interesting. The second fight, 2 undefeated fighters are facing each other. Joe Green, another New Yorker, faces Vanis Mitrosian from California. Vanis is 27-0 with 17 knockouts. Green is 22-0 with 14 knockouts. What's the story with this thing?
Right, it's an interesting fight.
And this could be the fight of the night also.
No.
No, you don't think so? Okay, why not?
Because of Green. I mean, he's only got one hand. He fights, his left hand is his power punch, and he doesn't have much of a jab, at least what I've seen so far from him. And hopefully he'll realize that he really has to perform well in this fight because of the people that he's going to be fighting in front of and the whole scene and everything. This is his shot to really show who he is. And against a guy like Vanis Martirosyan, it's his toughest fight, no question about it. I'm picking Martirosyan, but it's...
An interesting point is Martirosyan is trained by Freddie Roach. When's the last time you saw a Freddie Roach-trained fighter lose? I mean, I haven't seen it. Have you? In a while.
It happens.
It happens but when did it happen last? Do you know? Does anyone out there know?
I'm sure,
It's happened. Okay.
He doesn't just train the A-plus fighters. I mean, he has
Well, I mean the
across
big
board.
fights. I mean the big fights. The last time Freddie Roach fighter lost, I can't even remember.
Jerry Penalosa.
Okay. That's a long time ago, isn't it?
2007 or 8.
Okay. Anyway, so you're picking Martirosyan for easy victory?
No, it's not going to be easy. But I'm just saying that Green, at least from what I've seen so far, doesn't have the tools to beat Martirosyan yet.
Okay. Now, the main event, Cotto against Foreman. You know what? I started out liking Foreman in this fight. Now, after I've seen both work out recently, I'm leaning towards Miguel Cotto. How do you feel?
I'm going the other way. I'm going with the boxer.
Okay.
Of course, a couple of shows ago that we did, I picked both boxers with Malignaggi and Nate Campbell, and both those guys lost pretty bad.
Why, tell us why we should listen to you now.
Okay, I just think how Cotto has gotten beat up against Pacquiao, against Margarito, to the point where, how much is he going to have left? How much has that affected him, not just physically, but mentally? And against a guy like Yuri Foreman, he's going to give him fits with his style, and he's not going to stand in there and trade, which the fact that this card is being called Stadium Slugfest, I have no idea why, because it's going to be anything but a slugfest.
So I just feel Cotto will come on late and maybe try to stop him late. Maybe he will succeed. The only question is, how much does Cotto have left?
That's the question. And I think that Yuri Foreman is going to be able to frustrate him enough to keep the fight in going his way, and he's going to dictate the pace over a 12-round close decision.
I like Cotto late. We'll see what happens. Well, for Sean Sullivan Boxing Digest, I'm Jay Monte, TruFan Boxing. See you at Yankee Stadium. Be there in the square. Take care.
Want more? Go to inasectv.com to connect with the world of sports. Real-time updates, blog postings, and all the action you can handle in a sec. inasectv.com, connecting you to the world of sports.